in Simple Economics Radio.
Welcome to a new episode of Simple Economics Radio, the first episode in English, transmitted live from New York, basically where I'm at studying the ARPN bootcamp on quantitative finance. The topic of today will be the leverage strategy for a good well-being. Basically, the Stoics, rather Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, and Seneca, emphasized that problems were just problems, that in the world there is nothing good nor bad, there is only ignorance. And because of this ignorance is that other people act the way they act, and so do we. So how can we transform the bad situations, well, what we qualified as bad, and turn it into something good, turn it into something great? And this we can learn from the Stoics very easily. The first thing is that we have no control on external circumstances, we only have control on our mind. That is what Epictetus said on the first part of his book, Enchiridion, or better known as the Manual. He basically stated that there was something on our control, our mind, and that everything that is outside our mind is not on our control, even our body. And we can notice that certainly when we are on a diet and suddenly we gain weight and then we lose weight, and we're not controlling that. We're trying to reach a point where we feel healthy, but the thing is that our body does not respond as well as our mind. So what we can train is our mind, as Seneca said, to nourish our body, and we can train our mind to have a better quality of living. And for this, there is something called the leverage technique, that is turning bad things into good things. And it's that in finance, we actually talk about leverage as part of getting capital or some assets to move forward faster than we could in other circumstances. Usually we leverage on other person's assets, and from this point we can grow easily into another business. The same thing can happen with learning about others, about the wisdom of mistakes and of our mistakes. And it is currently known that when we do a mistake, we can learn from it. But there is a culture about not making a mistake that is basically wrong, because mistakes are there to be made. Mistakes are there to prove us that the path we're taking is not the right path. Maybe it's not the right path at the time. Maybe it's just saying, well, this was not the solution, let's find for another. The same way Alva Edison noticed that there were very different circumstances to make a light bulb, but he found a lot of ways how not to make a light bulb until he struck success. So, as a consequence, it is very important to get to know the possibility of taking into account how mistakes can nourish our lives. And that is the most important thing. Mistakes are there to be made and to be learned from, ours as well as others. And to learn from this, we have to take, for example, what happens if we made a mistake in our job and we get fired. You know, the first reaction will be to self-inflict wounds, to lick our wounds and say, well, that is terrible, I will never get another job, but not reflect as one can do, the same way as Steve Jobs did after getting fired from Apple when he was 30. He was like, I'm fired from my company. He could have used all his assets to attack his own company because they fired him, but he rather meditated on what happened and then developed Pixar. Now Pixar is one of the most famous companies in drawing, and well, as they say, else is history. But the thing is, we're trying to understand how a man like Steve Jobs took getting fired into a great opportunity. And that is simply not looking at our ego, not looking that, yes, we shouldn't get fired, yes, we shouldn't be in this situation, yes, but that things are unstoppable. We don't know how long our mistakes will take or where our mistakes will take us, but what we really know is how we can take advantage of the mistakes once they are made. Because looking backwards, there is no solution. But looking forwards, there are important solutions, such as taking the right attitude, the right mindset to overcome something as simple as getting fired. And the thing is, how do I overcome it? Well, basically, I learn from mistakes and then I move forward. Move forward, how? I ask myself, was I in the right job? Was I just in this job for paying the bills? Is there something else I can do? Is there another purpose in my life rather than the job? Is the job defining me? And this is a way I can be stripped of that definition and start my own success, my own personal brand, my own personal name. There are a lot of solutions surrounding getting fired, but we often choose stay in the dwelling part, stay in the part where we are not allowing ourselves to recover from this mistake. And what this does is that we actually don't become aware of the situation that we have in front of us, that we choose. We have a decision. When we choose every day to be sorry about getting fired, to feel bad about ourselves about getting fired, for example, it is a decision that we take every day, in every second, and we have to feed it, because the mind only works with what you feed it. You feed happy, positive thoughts to the mind, then you will have that. If you feed negative thoughts, you will have that as well. So the thing is, why we choose that? Why we choose that when we are able to forget someone's name, someone's telephone, even what we're going to the kitchen to get. But we cannot forget a circumstance like this. And it's not that somebody cares about us getting fired as they are judging that. It's simply because we feel that our ego has been tainted, and because it has been tainted, we have to fight back. But it's a self-destruct mechanism. So the way the Stoics will advise you is leave it alone, let it sink in, accept the deal, and then ask yourself, what can I do to change the actual circumstance? It will be ask for advice. It can be return to school. It can be learn something. It can be mentorship. It can be coaching. It can be start a new company, be an entrepreneur. There are so many options that require talents that you already have. It's just taking those talents, taking your passion, and basically building up to what you are here in this world to do. And we're all discovering that, but the thing is, we won't discover if we're stuck in our minds, criticizing ourselves, and not getting into work. Again, this is Mauricio Garita, and thanks for joining in my first English podcast.